President Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy striking an agreement over the weekend to raise the debt ceiling while capping and cutting some spending in the coming year. The House Rules Committee meeting today to discuss the deal. Some Republicans, however, are already unhappy. Utah Senator Mike Lee tweeted this: "Punting at your opponent 1 yard line isn't a winning strategy." Kentucky's Rand Paul slamming the deal, tweeting, "No real cuts to see here. Conservatives have been sold out once again." South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham calling for more spending, writing, quote, "I will use all powers available to me in the Senate to have amendment votes to undo this catastrophic for defense. I support raising the debt limit for 90 days to give us a chance to correct this disaster for defense," writes Lindsey Graham. Joining me right now is Tennessee Senator, member of the Senate Appropriations.
What is the true meaning of the word will? Well, according to Google, it's the desire, inclination, or choice of a person or group. The faculty of wishing, choosing, desiring, or intending. For this article or video's purpose, let's consider the word will, meaning the desire to do good for the people. So, what if there is no will? Is there still a way? It certainly doesn't seem like it. In Washington, will has come to die, to paraphrase Ron DeSantis, current governor of Florida and now Republican presidential candidate. Rarely is anything significant ever accomplished. That's because for too many politicians, solving a problem means they no longer have an issue with which to bash the other side. At a time when almost no form of behavior is considered a disgrace, the long, drawn-out scenario over the debt ceiling versus cuts in spending is disgraceful. The debt alone is a disgrace. The battle over it is even worse. You see, everyone with an intellect lower than Einstein's knows what should be done. A good accountant can come to Washington, D.C. and fix everything, but the accountant would not be seeking re-election or in need of contributors and the support of his or her base. If you've never seen the movie Dave, watch it and see what I mean. The fake president invites his friend to the White House, and in one 24-hour period, they rid the government of unnecessary programs and balance the budget. To say the least, every member of Congress should be required to see the film and then to act in a similar fashion. Our lovely drooler-in-chief, Joe Biden, wants us to believe that cutting anything will mean the end of Social Security checks and benefits to veterans. Well, that's obviously a lie. The waste, fraud, and abuse over government spending is a scandal that has gone on for far, far too long. The problem is that too many people are addicted to the government, and at least the liberal politicians like it that way because they are the party of government and dependency. And it's crucial for their careers. Hell, for their mere existence, isn't it? Even if it is destroying those hooked on this subtle but powerful addiction. Naturally, these folks will vote against their best interests. Example, imagine offering a homeless person on the streets of San Francisco a vial of their best heroin for just their pinky toe. Would they take the offer? Well, I imagine there'd be a lot of homeless people without pinky toes in San Francisco. No nation in history has ever been able to sustain itself with the amount of debt our government has incurred. It is approximately $32 trillion with interest greater than the GDP of other nations. Along with uncontrolled immigration and the destruction of what were once considered moral norms, we are rapidly heading for the same destination as great nations and empires of the past that failed to pay attention to fundamental economics and moral principles. Fundamental economics and moral principles. Isn't it interesting how these two are so closely tied together? It's almost like without moral character, there's no incentive to act with responsibility in general. Who would have thought? So like a child trying to test the limits of what they can get away with, our lovely elected class keeps pushing the absurdity into the abyss, knowing at some point this will all fall apart or blow up. Always hoping it's not in their hands when it happens. But, as I've said at least 1,000 times on this channel, at the end of the day, there is no one to blame except the people who keep electing the politicians who have burdened us with this debt problem. In the publication Foreign Policy, Darren Acemogel and James Robinson write about the causes of decline and collapse of other nations. Quote, "What's tragic is that these failures are by design. These states collapse because they are ruled by what we call extractive economic institutions, which destroy incentives, discourage innovation, and sap the talent of their citizens by creating a tilted playing field and robbing them of opportunities." Unquote. We destroy incentives by overtaxing the successful and subsidizing the unsuccessful, instead of helping the unsuccessful to become successful. It's really simple. And boy, doesn't that sound like the Democrat Party platform in a nutshell. Then there's the rampant crime, which can be seen played out along with incredible amounts of homelessness in the streets of pretty much every Democrat-run city. Clearly, this is evidence of an unraveling social structure, right? And let's not forget, as our drooler-in-chief has forgotten, or more accurately ignored, this fentanyl crisis, which has killed tens of thousands of Americans and is currently still doing so. Lastly, if we have lost our will or desire as a nation to not just define what's right and bitch about it, but to actually do what's right, then we have lost our way in a world that is increasingly being dominated by China, whose President Xi Jinping may have correctly diagnosed us as a nation in decline.
Where are Senate Democrats? Where is Chuck Schumer? They've been MIA this entire week, not even in town, but hell, they've been MIA all year, not doing a thing in the Senate, except for being the personnel office for the administration. That's all they do. They run through nominations, and heck, they're not even that good at that. So what do? They run out of town. Where was the president last week? Japan. You see this ominous threat of a looming debt ceiling date, an X date as it's being referred to, of June 1, is all manufactured crisis and theater. We know that. Americans know that. Secretary Yellen wants to figure out how we need to deal with whatever interest payments need to be paid in June. She can prioritize those payments. She can make decisions to figure out how to carry this country forward. She can walk on down here, brief us, meet with us long before the June 7th date she's currently planning to come down to talk to us, and have a conversation about, I don't know, how about taking those COVID dollars back that are sitting there unobligated to the tune of $50 billion? How about taking the IRS dollars back that are there to expand the Internal Revenue Service, an IRS which, by the way, targets the poor and minorities 3 to 5 times more than the non-poor and non-minorities? That's the truth. Why don't they take that $80 billion, combine it with the COVID money, turn it into dollars right now that you can go pay loans with? Voila, no problem. But see, my Democratic colleagues won't do that, because my Democratic colleagues prefer the fear created with a manufactured crisis. They prefer to use that crisis, as Rahm Emanuel said, never let a crisis go to waste. They prefer to manufacture a crisis to jack up more debt on our children and grandchildren to the tune of $4 trillion. That's what they want more than anything on earth, is to spend more money to increase the power of government, to undermine our freedoms, to destroy the American way of life, and they are doing it right now.
Most of this came by way of townhall.com. If you liked it, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Leave a comment down below. There's a PayPal link in the description box, so please put $1 in the bucket on the way out the door. I'd like to thank everyone for all your donations. They're much needed and much appreciated. Now, with all that being said, we'll see you next time.
All right. Come on, move. Move. Easy, easy.